So, you're tired of being bent over by corporations while you get $15 an hour at McDonald's to try and live off of. Well, maybe it's time we start doing things to fight back. So, I've talked a lot about how corporations have been ruining everything. They've literally ruined everything in the pursuit of profit. Society as a whole has gone downhill because now everybody's desperately trying to gouge you for whatever they can to make money off of you. It's getting more and more desperate. It's getting more and more survival mode for a lot of people. And as such, costs are just continuing to spiral upward on just about everything. And there are some things that we still have in our tool belt to fight against this trend. And as somebody who has quit their job back in December and not looked back, surviving on a very low income, using whatever means necessary to do so, I sat down and just really thought about and wrote down a bunch of points on things that they don't want us, because they're telling us plainly what they don't want us to do. And those are the things that we should do to fight back. It's all we can do. You see, the corpos are mainly the people that are in Wall Street, the owners, the owner class, always wants number to go up. They don't care if they fire everybody. They don't care about whether or not they make a good product. They don't care about anything. Even if they make a good product, they still want number to go up. So you'll see some instances out there where they make something good and then they lay off 150 people despite making something good, because that's more profit. That's more money in their pocket. So we have things, and how long we have these tools is debatable. But currently we have things we can do to break away from these chains that they're trying to weigh you down with and take all of your money, all of your productivity, and all of your attention. They want full control over you. Because if they can control you, they can profit from you. And that's really what it breaks down to. All of this greed, it's always been there. But now there is this push, this really strong push to take everything from you and monetize it. They've ruined creativity. Everything's a remake of a reboot of a fucking remake because nobody is willing to take the financial risk on trying something new, on innovating. No, we're going to take the formula that we know made us a lot of money and we're going to try and make more fucking money out of it. And we're just going to keep doing that over and over again. And that's been the pattern for like the last, I'd say, close to 8 or 9 years. With new reboots, remakes, redo this, release old, like Sony just released 2 old fucking games at $40. Full price, no fucking real changes to it whatsoever. Another thing that was released by Ubisoft, I believe, is Assassin's Creed Black Flag. They did redo it. They made it beautiful. But then they added microtransactions. Then they added DLC. And it's all to try and grab as much of your money as possible by providing you virtually nothing new. Low effort, high profit. That's what Wall Street wants, and therefore that is what CEOs want, and that is what corporations want. We've let this happen. There's no doubt about it. our habits have allowed this, and our unwillingness to be inconvenienced, as I said in the previous video, has allowed it to go this way. Well, now I want to go over some specifics on how I think we can fight back. And it's going to involve some inconvenience, some things that don't go quite as smoothly as you think they should. And I'm going to try and cover all of the general areas of our life, from entertainment to transportation to shelter to food and etc., to try and just have a list of, just, you don't have to do everything on the list. Sometimes doing just one of these things, and I can tell you which one it is, will be enough to move the needle to give you control of your life again. Because right now, I feel like we don't have a lot of control over our lives. It's spiraling. Just pull up to the gas pump, you know. Like right now, I'm in Canada, and the reason I'm not filming this in nature right now is I'm weighing down the cost-benefit analysis of $5 and some odd cents a gallon when you have to drive anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour to get anywhere in this part of Canada I'm in. To me, it's easier just to sit in front of my girlfriend's fireplace and be like, hey, let's talk about how to stick it to them. So we're going to talk about entertainment first, because that's been all over YouTube, all over the internet, all over X, all over all of that. I don't look at X. I only trust that YouTubers are telling me what's going on over there without me actually participating in that shit show. So for entertainment, what they want you to have to do, this is what they want. They want you to have to pay. You don't own any of your entertainment. It's all content. It comes in, it goes away. It disappears forever. Then we give you more. We give you new. It goes, you consume it. It's probably got to be short form for short attention spans that we've destroyed over the years. And then it goes away. And it's like this constant stream of slop and low effort, poorly written, regurgitated, take what worked before and change it slightly and repackage it and sell it at full price. All of this shit. And they just want to keep going through you. What they don't want you to do is be like, no, I'm good. I have a Blu-ray collection. Turns out I own all of that. I can watch anything I want at any time with nobody removing the license for it. But I hate discs. So what I've done is I've taken my Blu-ray collection and put it on an older, cheaper hard drive, which is still fast enough to stream it at 4K. And I've hooked that to my computer, my old computer running Linux that's hooked to my television that is not connected to the internet. And I'm able to watch every movie I've ever purchased that way. And with the benefit of new movies, well, by new I mean new to me, but they've been around a while. They're better written than that shit that comes out of fucking Hollywood. Or the streaming services, for that matter, who have completely destroyed every IP that used to be, what we look forward to after our 70-hour work week, to go into a fucking movie theater to watch. Well, I don't even know what a movie theater looks like. I built my own, and it has all my shit that I want to watch in it. TV shows that I missed out on 10 years ago. Well, guess what? They're still just as good today as they were then. Yeah, they're not all walking around staring at their phones in these shows. Some of them even have flip phones. But that's really good for scratching that nostalgia itch. Or for the young generation, they want the nostalgia that that they didn't grow up with. They don't know these things, and it's making a comeback. And after that, I want to update my CD and album collection. Or if I don't want to go the inconvenient route, I'll just digitize all my music as its own MP3 on one of my own devices. Personally, my cell phone has every CD I've ever owned. I digitized, and I put it on my phone. I don't have to go to Spotify or YouTube to listen to music. 99% of the time, I don't even need this to be connected. It could be off, like no signal. And I could still listen to all my music. Go out on the camping trip, and if I want to hear some fucking Tool, well, guess what? I own every Tool album ever made, and I put it all into the files on my own backup because I own the rights, because I own the discs. You know, I'm not talking about sailing the seven seas here. I'm talking about you get the physical copy and then you can digitize it and put it on it and you're covered. You're legal. I'm talking about legal ownership that they don't want you to have anymore. They want you to keep rebuying the same shit over and over again as streaming services die off and new streaming services pop up or new storefronts appear while old digital storefronts disappear. They want this churn so that they can resell you Skyrim 50 times. Thanks, Microsoft / Bethesda, for proving just how shitty you are. You know, it's just this constant churn. They want to, we're going to have to stop consuming that if we want to not be bent over. Otherwise, you'll be paying nonstop for the rest of your life for the same fucking entertainment with maybe a newer, cast and crew for movies, or maybe a new set of textures for some game that they didn't rebuild all the models for. And they'll call it, this is the enhanced super fucking deluxe DLC edition. And we also have 10 new DLCs where you can get new outfits for it at $10 a pop. Instead of what it used to be, you bought the game for $40, $50, even $60 back in the day, which is a lot today if you go for inflation. But you got the whole fucking thing in one shot. You didn't have to buy DLC within the first week. Which consequently, if you're a gamer and you're buying games that have day one DLC, that's a bad sign. You need to stop doing that. Because if you keep doing that, they keep doing it. They need to learn to give you something new, something good, something that doesn't suck, and to take the chance that they might make something that sucks so that they fail and they don't constantly repeat the same mistake. That's the other thing about corporations nowadays. They are rewarded for failure. A CEO could make the entire fucking ship sink like they did at Xbox, in my opinion. And they sail off into the sunset. They sell off their shares like the Sony executive just did, and then they land on the ground somewhere else and they're given another CEO position for another company. Hey, we think you did such a great job at completely wrecking every product that company made while skyrocketing shareholder value. Well, here's another company. The CEO that destroyed Xbox One went on to go to Zynga, which is an online gaming, pay to win fucking scam. And the reason he's able to do that is because there's a ton of people that are willing to shell over their hard-earned cash for downloadable fucking crap that you could honestly sit down with Blender and make in an afternoon. And in less than an hour if you use AI now. And people are paying hundreds of dollars for that shit. How much money have you funneled into this? How many times have you went to see the same fucking movie with different cast and more woke political horseshit in the theater at $35? And that's if you didn't eat the popcorn. It's old. It's tired. We need to stop doing it. And unless we inconvenience ourselves by not consuming the new thing. That's the hardest thing. That's the thing that really fucks you up. It is minorly inconvenient to not use the brand new shit. And I'm going to go through a real world example that I have done myself. In light of Sony boning everyone and saying, you will own nothing and be happy about it, and we're going to control the price of everything going forward in a couple years when we stop producing physical media. No more physical media means they have the store, they control the price. There's no competition from secondhand selling or reselling or all of that. They do not want you to have the right to your content because, like I said earlier, they want to just keep pushing things through. Oh, you really like that old game? Well, we took it off our store right now. So, but you can play the new Enhanced Definitive Edition for $50 right now. Even though you already bought the fucking game before on the older system, which should still work, we don't want you to have that option anymore. We're going to shut down that PS3 store. And you're going to buy our shit again and again. Bethesda was notorious for it with Skyrim. How many fucking different editions of Skyrim were there when you could really just mod the original to get all of that same shit? But they pimped that out to the mass. Every new system, you had to buy a new copy of it. And yet they force you to log in to their server when you buy said new copy of it. So they can sell you more DLC, sell you more workshop content that they stole from modders. You know, these are all things that these corporations are doing, and we're letting them do it, and we need to stop that. If you want to win, stop giving them the money for that shit. Stop rewarding that effort to subvert your ownership of the things that you like to do. And it goes so far beyond games and even movies and your music. And if you really think about it, every aspect of your entertainment, they are trying to monetize, turn it into short attention span shit, and spoon feed it to you. And if they're not raking you over the coals with subscriptions, they're raking you over the coals with advertisements, or they're collecting your data. Smart TVs are a great example of this. I was floored, hearing all of the tech things and how AI's used up all the memory, AI's taken all the shit. Every time I walk into Costco and I see these huge 73-inch fucking OLED TV well, maybe not OLED, but QLED, whatever the latest TV tech is. Huge fucking TVs for $400. Yet when I went to buy a hard drive, not an SD, a hard drive, because I'm running low on space, I do a lot of content and a lot of shit, and I need storage. Well, the hard drives have all gone up. Why? I thought that AI didn't use hard drives. They use the fucking SSDs. No, it's capitalism, and it's fine. They're raising that price too, And then slightly more. If you pay slightly more, you get the SD. You see how that works? They're smart about it. Along with the digital price tags that have now popped up in Best Buy. I've seen digital price tags here in Canada in 2 grocery stores now. Not the whole store like Walmart yet, but it's coming. Anyway, I'm getting sidelined there. So they're coming for all of this. They're trying to take your ownership away, so you have to pay for the privilege on just about everything. If you want the latest console when it comes out, now consoles used to be a cheap way of gaming. Now they cost almost as much as a entry-level PC at this point. In fact, the Steam thing that just came out was $1,000 for the base model. So how do we fight them trying to take your tech and make it so that you have to pay a subscription and go out into the cloud to use one of the servers in these huge data centers to do all of your computing? And with the advent of AI, that's taking up a large portion of it. But make no mistake, AI isn't going to butter all their bread. So they're going to offer you gaming solutions, servers to host your applications, and they're going to price you out of owning your own laptop, your own computer. That's coming. They're working actively towards that, and it's already working. When you walk through and you try and buy a decently powered PC at this point, and you're willing to pay the Windows Premium because it comes pre-installed, we'll get to Microsoft in a minute because I've already fucked with them enough, and I've already got them out of my life. But if you buy a new PC and it has Windows installed, you're paying $250 to Microsoft, just to be aware of. So I wouldn't do that if I were you. They want you to have to log in. They want to know who you are and where you are and all your information when you do, as Microsoft has pushed for. And even if you think you're being slick and using a VPN, if you use Windows, your VPN's useless because guess what? Windows is tracking your machine, where it is, what it's doing, they're giving all that away to whoever may need it. If you're a criminal, guess what? You're fucked. They're coming for you. They don't care that you used a VPN and bounced it off 3 other countries. They still know where your machine is, who it belongs to, and all of that shit. Linux Tech or Linus Tech Tips just did a whole fucking rant on that the other day on how they're switching to Linux just because of that. You have no privacy with Windows anymore, and they want to push it further than that. They want you to have no ownership. They want Game Pass to be Computer Pass, to be Compute Pass. If you want to do anything that involves a mouse, keyboard, or a controller, they want you to pay a monthly subscription to use a machine in a server farm somewhere that you're sharing with 10 other people, 1,500. Well, I don't know how they divide up the compute or how powerful the hardware is in there. But you're going to only access a little bit of that slice for a limited amount of time. But of course, you can pay more to increase your time, which is currently the model for a lot of the AI products out there right now. And they want that to be your model for everything. They can charge you whatever they want at that point. Once they get you in, once you're hooked and you can't go back, that's where we got to fight them. They're telling you what they're doing. They're showing you what they're doing. Don't do it. That's the only way to stop it. If you do it, if you capitulate and you pay for that subscription because I got the money, who cares? I'm wealthy. You're not going to be wealthy forever because they're coming for all that. And they're going to take more and more of your hard-earned money or whatever profits you made in the stock market because you're rooting for the corpos at this point. They're coming for it. They're coming for your rights, your ownership. And they can control you with that. If you spent thousands of your hard-earned dollars on a library of movies or games or whatever, or all of your shit's tied into that machine in the cloud, and if you were to lose that, you'd lose all your data, all your apps, all of that shit, and you'd have to rebuy all of it again. See where we're going? And they'll cut you off. And it could be because you don't like what you said, they don't like your social media posts. Whatever reason. If you're a Sony user, at some point, when they remove the physical media, they can take your entire library of shit, including any movies, any games, and whatever, and delete your account or ban your account, and you lose however many thousands of dollars you spent on your entertainment in one shot. And then you got to buy it all again. So you don't see a lot of game publishers and movie studios fighting against this because they know that they're going to get their cut of the next purchase all over again. Rinse and repeat. And you know who laid down the foundation for it? We did. By buying 10,000 copies of fucking Skyrim per person. Oh, a new platform, a new system. Oh, I got to buy that game again. That was a great game. The modding and everything, it's still relative to that. Or I got to watch this movie even though the original was 50 times better. I need to see the new one. Which is a pile of dog shit. But still, it makes me think about the old one, so I feel good about it. It's us that's enabling this, and we're the ones that have to fight it. And even if it's just you, the things I'm about to discuss with you that you can do, you don't require a majority to do it. This is going to, the things that I'm saying to do, you can still do them. That's not going to last forever. Do them now. The time is not on your side here because the longer we allow this and we don't do anything about it, the harder it's going to be, to jump on the life raft after the boat's already under the water. There's going to be some people fighting and clawing their way, and prices on secondary markets and used markets are already going up. Go into a Goodwill now and you're paying eBay prices for shit that they got dropped off at their back dock for free. But they're charging them eBay prices. Another corpo to avoid. So it goes without saying, now is the time to buy a few generations behind. And the real world example that I mentioned is when PlayStation announced this shit, I immediately started shopping on the used market for a PS4. You want to know why I did that? Because the PS5, yeah, it's a better performing system, has great, no, it's okay graphics. It's kind of just upscaling 720p and to keep these frame rates. But you get ray tracing. The lights look a little nicer, you know. But if you're willing to give up that lights looking a little nicer, maybe the handful that you can count on, maybe two hands, games that take advantage of that, nearly 85% of the games on PlayStation 5 were already on PlayStation 4. So I was like, oh, well, let's see what the price of PlayStation 4 is. Not just PlayStation 4, the base model, the Pro model. So I went out, and I've done this now, and paid $120 at a kind of a pawn shop. It's more like a retro games pawn shop. $120 for a PS4 Pro. I got that thing home, and it had probably a good $200 of newer, fully installed games on the hard drive that somebody left on there. You know, I got Doom Eternal. I got what? No, not Doom Eternal. What? No, I bought the disc for that. But I got all like the old remakes of Resident Evil. I got a bunch of those. I got, what else did I get? The latest Mortal Kombat, which I like. I like the old Mortal Kombat games. That used to be what I go to the arcade and play when I was young. You know, back when they monetized things and didn't want you to own it, but they wanted to suck all the quarters out of you. This is not new. The greed is not a new thing. It's just a lot easier now than it was back then. You know. Anyways, getting sidetracked there. I got a whole bunch of fucking games that somebody left on there. I didn't delete them. I moved them over to my hard drive. In my view, I bought the thing and it had the games on it. Therefore, they are mine. I paid for those games secondhand. See why that's a problem? Those games, most of them on the PlayStation Store are currently like 40, 20, 50. You know, there was a few that were down in the $10 range. You know, because there's competition with secondhand markets. If that competition wasn't there, I guarantee you none of those, I wouldn't see a price under $25. So for that $120, I got a controller with it. The controller works. I got probably about $400 worth of value. And I didn't stop there. I looked through the used games, the PS4 section in there, full of games, many of which have the full game on it. But make no mistake, PS4 is where they started making it to require an internet connection the first time you run a game. However, their selling point was against Xbox One. So therefore, once you install the game, if it's disc-based, you can unplug your internet and all of those games will work when the disc is put in. That's it. So you may still need to connect, but do it now because they can patch these PS4s still. In fact, it wanted to update and I let it when I first got in because I bought shit on the PlayStation 4 during PlayStation 3 times and all of that. So I owned a few games of myself digitally. And I figured, well, let's connect to my old account and see what I still have there. And I had a few games that I'd purchased years ago, many years ago. But I also bought like a nice stack of games anywhere between $5 and $15 per game. So I have a full collection, many of which I have played briefly in some instances or never played at all. So I have a bunch of games. Like I never played Last of Us past the first, half hour of it back in the day when it came out. Now I have it. I have the remastered version. Guess what? That was one of the ones that was left on the hard drive for me. So I have that. But you can buy the game itself for like $10 or $15 depending on where you go. Bounce that off of the new shit. If you want a new PlayStation 5, the base model, you're probably going to pay $600 for it. They just raised the price on them, even though it's old. They haven't had an army of exclusive games. They got some exclusive games now, but you know what? I don't need to play any of them because a lot of them are either live service fucking crap or they're shitty, regurgitated remakes of shit. The definitive edition, the ultra edition, the man edition. Fuck your editions. I'm not paying for the same fucking game years ago. Even I was enticed by the new remake of Black Flag, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, because I love the original. And I played that way back where Xbox 360 times is where we're talking now. Well, I still have old versions of that game. Plenty of them. Old shitty graphics and all. Same exact gameplay as the new one. With a catch. The new one has way prettier graphics. I'm not going to lie. But you know what? It doesn't change the gameplay. Same gameplay. Well, they did make some tweaks, I hear. But they also added DLC day one. It's not going to take away from the experience. You are charging $70 for this new fucking version of the game. $100 for the definitive ultra fucking collector's edition or whatever. And then you still have fucking DLC purchases to make. You think that's going to end? No, there's going to be more DLC to monetize your nostalgia of an older game that they couldn't be bothered to make a sequel to. So they just redid the old one. Because it's so beloved as an older retro title and they weren't making any money off the deal. We're talking Ubisoft here, not necessarily Sony. Though Sony, they're taking their cut. And now with Grand Theft Auto 6 on the horizon, everybody's, got the lotion and the Kleenex for this game. Meanwhile, I get my GTA fix just fine on Grand Theft Auto 5. I have the enhanced version for PC, which has slightly better improved graphics with a little bit of ray tracing and all of that mixed in. So I get the prettiness. And I still have all the gameplay. And I didn't partake in the shit show that was Grand Theft Auto Online because all that was a cash grab and still is. And Rockstar, I'm sorry, is showing their true colors with what they did with GTA 5. They're going to do it worse in GTA 6. So not only will you not get the full game day one, you'll be having to buy the definitive super fucking collector's edition pre-order because we don't have any discs here. You're going to pre-order a license for this game. And if you get banned, guess what? You get to buy it again. If you get banned for going into the multiplayer and being a dick, guess what? You're going to buy it again. You don't just own it. In the single player experience, we don't give a fuck. You just buy it again. That's what they can do if you don't have the physical copy. If you have the physical copy, you can still play the game even if they cut your account. Although, a lot of the newer versions want you to log in. So, Rockstar is already violating my trust as a gamer. And I'm a casual gamer now, more so than a hardcore that I used to be. But my point with all of this, and you can apply this to just about every form of tech, is if you go back one or two generations, if you do it with your phone, you do it with your PC, your laptop, you name it, you'll still get 85 to 90% of the performance of the new shit for a quarter of the price that you're paying today. When Microsoft decided that older laptops without their chip to be able to spy on you better in them, they decided that you can't have those anymore, so they took away support. That left a whole bunch of laptops and computers on the market today at a quarter of the price that you'll pay for a brand new PC or a brand new laptop. And then you just go and download your favorite flavor of Linux, depending on what it is you do. And I'm telling you, Linux has come a very long way nowadays. You buy that older computer, chances are they've done driver updates for all the shit in there. And even NVIDIA, there was a big time where Linux and NVIDIA they struggled, and because NVIDIA doesn't like Linux, and Linux and AMD have more of a thing. But that being said, I have a MSI laptop that I bought, I want to say it's been almost 2 years, maybe 2.5 years, about 2 years ago when I was still in a truck. Has a 4080 GPU in it with 12 gigs of VRAM. Has all of the shit that a lot of the modern systems, with the exception of the video card, have. Same processor as some of them even. But those systems, when I walk through Costco, are $3,500 for arguably a better desktop GPU. You know, and a lot of the laptops that you can buy cheaper than what I paid for mine right now have 5060s in them, which were notoriously bad, providing very little performance gain from the last generation and the generation before. So if you go back to the 40-something generations of NVIDIA cards or the previous generations of AMD, you're going to save tons of money and get anywhere from 80 to 85, maybe even 90% of the performance, minus some of the latest and greatest ray tracing that's making the lights look pretty. You can live without that, trust me. You know, if you played Quake back in the 90s, you probably are good. I still play Quake today. I paid $3 for it on Steam when it was on sale. And it's still there, and I'm still playing it. It's digital, though, but I also have GOG. I can install it from there. I keep the games that I want, and I can play them whether I'm connected to the internet or not. That's my point. That's what you got to do. It applies for your phones, it applies for your TVs, it applies for your media, it applies for your music. Although music's getting expensive, isn't it? Physical music. Because everyone comes and ruins things. So you see, we're in a society now where if anything is successful financially, it's going to get a bunch of people trying to do the same thing. It's one of the downfalls of being super connected to everything like we are. Sorry, I was checking my audio. It's the downfall of being super connected is when you find something good and then you tell everybody online about it, then you're going to get a bunch of copy people. And it's really murdered creativity across the board. Because, for example, say you're a game developer and you want to make video games, which I wanted to do. I've always wanted to be a creative type, and every time I try and put my big toe in there, it's destroyed as a way to make money. You're going to be broke if you try and do these things for a living. For a long time, unless you get lucky. About the same amount of chance as buying a lottery ticket. But there was an example I saw on Steam where they made a game. And the game was simple. It was Chameleon something or other. And you would, because I follow indie developers because I still am interested in coding and learning to make my own games. And I've made a few here and there in my life. That being said, this game, all it was it's like hide and seek, and you paint over your little guy that your opponent's trying to find, and you hide it somewhere in this environment by painting it the same color as the shit around it. So they sold 15 million copies of this game, which had 2 developers and didn't take very long to make. They recycled a bunch of assets and a lot of the engine. They already, they didn't spend a huge budget making this game. And they got 15 million downloads out of the deal, which probably is more like 8 or 9 million when all the shit's paid. Dollars that they made with something that probably took them 6 months to develop, and that's at max. They're still developing for it, I guess. But within a week of that game being released, there were no less than 10 clones on Roblox. Now, for those of you who don't know what Roblox is what your kids are probably playing, or your grandkids. Guess what? It's the endless content slop machine that's monetized with Robux, with in-game purchases, with DLC, with access to the games themselves in some cases, all with minimal development effort slop after slop after slop, and the young folks today are all eating it. Roblox has more active players than Steam, which is the second biggest gaming platform. It outshines all the consoles altogether. Roblox is where your kids and the young folks in the college and all of those, that's where they're getting a lot of their gaming if they're not busy with Fortnite still. Another live service game. But my point is when you have success in any of these mediums, whether it's film, music, you name it, you're going to immediately be copycatted. And it's so fast. It used to take a long time. Like in the 80s when they had the video game crash, because companies were just putting out 10 different versions of Pong. It's not a new phenomenon, mind you. This is human nature at its finest. It's a lot of people trying to capitalize off of somebody's originality, somebody's new idea that's successful, that people like. It immediately gets gutted, destroyed. And now in the age of AI, it's come for everything. A friend of mine, my friend Eric, he likes to send me links to shit he sees on YouTube sometimes. He's also into woodworking, but we'll get into that in the future. He sent me a link to a movie that had just come out live. 100% AI made movie. Maybe some sound effects delivered by somebody on top of this AI footage. And I could not discern it. I mean, I knew it was AI because I had the AI flag. But in terms of cohesiveness and scenes and shots and just heavy duty, super awesome effects that were in it. If I had just landed here from another time and saw that in a movie theater, I'd have been like, wow, that's pretty good. It's pretty all right. You know, once that's there and the barrier for entry, you got endless content. And when you have endless content, the market is flooded. And creativity gets drowned. Because if one of those AI movies is successful, you're going to have the bot farms in India just fucking loading up on sequels and similar movies. And it's so easy now that the good stuff will be drowned in it. Unless you pay your premium subscription. Then we'll curate the good stuff for you. And then we'll let you buy it. Let you sit with it for a few years. And then we'll take it away so that you have to buy it again. Oh, I really like that movie you just took from me. I like Terminator 2, Sony. Why'd you take that out of my library? I gave you $25 for the fucking thing. Well, now you got to go buy it again somewhere else. The person with the rights to that, they're fine with it. Yeah, I'll take another royalty on that purchase. That's good for me. Give them a 1-year license. Then take it. Streaming services, that's essentially what you're doing. They pick and choose what stays up there. You're paying every month for the limited access to a movie. They can take it off at any time, even if you bookmarked it as one of your favorites. Well, guess what? It's gone. Even though you've given them $1,000 in the past couple of years, you can't watch what you want. Sorry. It's not as convenient as you thought. Whereas if you had a Blu-ray on the shelf, and then a hard drive with the copies of all your Blu-rays on it, and guess what? You have that movie. You just, I feel like watching this tonight. No more are you scrolling through endless content trying to find the one they want to watch or doing the search bar, which will put all of their latest slop up top, and then you got to dig down to find the movie. No, you just go on your hard drive, do a little search for the file, and there it is. Or you pick it off your shelf if you like being old school, put it in your player, fast forward through the 10, 20 ads that used to be on all of them, because let's face it, greed's not new. And then watch your movie in perfect, better than streaming quality in some cases. So another thing you can do is from buying old tech, stuff that's old, because the advances in the newer tech they've been incremental at best. We're diminishing returns territory now on a lot of the newest tech. Just saying. And I'm talking from cameras to laptops to computers to phones, tablets, you name it. You can probably go 2 generations, sometimes 3 generations old, And for a fraction of what they want you to pay today, is what it is. And if you can do it without connecting to the internet and use whatever that tech is without connecting to the internet, then the chances of them breaking it or slowing it down so you have to buy the latest new shit are a lot lower. So keep that in mind as well. But this goes for appliances, anything. Any tech you can find on the used market. The marketplace is full of motherfuckers trying to sell shit because they're broke. You're not so much going to find a good deal in a lot of thrift stores nowadays. But you can still find a deal. Facebook Marketplace, even though that's become, hey, you need to pay us to boost your posts. It took me a while to sell my last camera. But that's just the reality of it. There's a lot of stuff that's a few generations old or older that you can find at a decent price because some people don't know what they have. Some people haven't realized that the reseller market has exploded and everything's overpriced, but they come in because they had to clean out the garage and they found an old fucking PS3 in there and they're like, I'll probably get $50 for it. There you go. Deals like that. If you're savvy, and you can be savvy while you're taking a shit. Just saying. So in addition to buying secondhand, you probably have a bunch of shit that you already own. First thing you should ask, is it good enough? Sit down. I have a few laptops on shelves right now that I've had to put Linux on, but I haven't really sat down and gave them the Pepsi challenge on if I could use them for anything. But if the answer to that's no, then you sell it. You sell it, and then you can either trade for another piece of tech from a similar era or use the money towards your next used purchase, and you're doubling the amount of money you're saving. A penny saved is a penny earned here. You don't have to work for that extra money. You don't have to earn that if you combine those two steps, buying a few generations older on your tech or on your appliances or what have you. Whatever it is you want to buy. You know, because half the reason you're fucking working your ass off is because you want to buy shit. You want to be wealthy and buy everything. Well, we can have a philosophical argument on why that's bullshit now. But if you're into that, if you go used, if you go a few generations old on tech, if you buy from the used market, yeah, every once in a while you might get burned with something that don't quite work or something that you can't fix. But a lot of it you can get fixed. So, but I don't know. When you're getting the repair, you might not be worth it to repair some of these things and just buy another used piece of it. But my point is, yeah, there's a little inconvenience there, but it's rare. You know. That being said, the fact that I was able to get as much value from the PS4 that I do not feel the need that I don't feel like I'm missing out having a PS5. Probably helps that I have that 4080 laptop, which is more powerful than the PS5 Pro, plays all the current shit, and that Sony's dumbasses released them a lot of their first-party exclusives on fucking Steam. So I have access to some of the latest and greatest games, and I didn't pay Sony $900 for it. Or whatever the latest PS5 Pro prices are. You see what I'm getting at? You know, and when you get into the other devices, it pays to learn Linux, all right? I have been Microsoft free for quite a while now. And it brought new life into some of my older laptops. I was sweating because I paid a lot of money for my MSI Stealth 18 laptop, which is what was my gaming everything rig when I was on the truck. Had a very good, I could play all the latest shit with ray tracing, all the shit, bells and whistles turned on. I was sweating putting Bazite Linux on this thing. I'm like, I feel like I'm going to put it on here. It's going to become a big brick. And I'll have to go out and buy a copy of a Windows 11 because I'll have wiped it off the computer. I didn't go dual boot. I was too pissed off. All right. I was so angry with Microsoft, I de-Microsofted. I sold my Xbox Series S, which I owned, which means I no longer have access to any of those games. Well, I suppose I could log in on my laptop into my Xbox account and play some of the games I purchased in that ecosystem. But because I was all digital when I sold that piece of hardware, and guess what? Your PlayStation, sooner or later, you're going to probably sell it. because it's just sitting on a shelf. Or they cut off your store access account. Whatever. But my point is, all that digital shit that was on my Xbox, I don't really have that anymore. I can still log into the account, but I'm so disgusted that I'm like, nope, I'll take that loss. I'll take that hit. If I want to play something from my old library, then I'm going to do what they want me to do and rebuy it when it's on a Steam sale. PC's been off the physical train for quite a while now, but that doesn't mean you can't get a copy of the game that you paid for, that you own, that you should own when you pay your $50, $70, $90 at retail launch. I just buy shit on Steam sales now. I look through the Steam sales and I'm like, oh, I missed that game back in the day. And, it's $5 today. Hey, alrighty. I'll pay $5 for a digital fucking thing. All right. And then with good old games, I have a GOG as well. They give you the whole game. Offline installer. You can put that on a disc and put it on a shelf. And if your entire internet account goes away or the storefront disappears or any of that like that, you can pull that little disc off the shelf that you burned yourself, put it in the drive that you had to buy on Amazon because none of the computers come with drives anymore, and reinstall the game. That's a whole thing. And a lot of these things I'm telling you, you can go into great detail on. You can jailbreak these old machines. That PS4 I told you about, you can buy one, and if you get a certain version number, you can put Linux on it. You can put all these emulators on it. You can do all of this stuff on the PS4 hardware, which is 85% of the experience of the PS5, hardware-wise. Easily. They started doing the upscale thing. It's not as good looking as the current PSSR that's on the Pro. You see my point? It's a diminishing return. They want to charge you thousands upon thousands of dollars and make it so you don't necessarily own the content that's played on the hardware you buy now. And they're pricing you out of the hardware itself so that only the elites and ultra rich can buy and own their laptop or their computer that can do all the modern shit. But they don't want you, the pleb, to do the modern shit. They want to charge you a reasonable $29 a month or $40 a month, depending on how much of your entertainment revolves around that. And they want you to go and fucking do that. Don't do it. That's how you stick it to them. That's 100%. And we're just covering the entertainment so far. I still got a whole bunch of other shit to get to. So your entertainment, your appliances, your purchases, don't buy new. And you stick it to the corpse. That's it. Buy from other people secondhand. Sell your old shit to buy the slightly newer shit. Keep your brain away from all of the channels that are going to tell you, oh, I got the latest, greatest, this and that. It's a trap. You're going to get FOMO'd into shit. I get sucked into it. I've upgraded a few cameras by selling old cameras now. I still have this camera that you're watching me on, which has been faithful to me for years. It's a Sony AX700 camcorder. It has everything I need to make videos in it. It doesn't do 4K 60. Okay. But I can do 1080p 60, upscale it to 4K, and nobody seems to fucking care or notice for that matter. So this camera does a lot. And that's why I can't bring myself to sell it. And it still sells. It's still holding a lot of its value. I could sell this camera for $1,000 used right now. I paid $1,800 for it new back in the day, like a long time back in the day. So it's holding on to a whole lot of its value. So if I wanted to upgrade, guess what? I could sell this and maybe buy a generation or two old if I wanted to stay in the Sony thing. But guess what? When Sony pisses me off in the gaming market, it makes me not want to spend money in other areas, Sony. Like, I don't want to buy your games that your in-house studio is producing. Even though if you release them on Steam because nobody fucking bought them on your regular hardware. You see how this works? Same thing with Microsoft. I'm very skeptical when it comes to Microsoft studios now, when it comes to the games they release, because I've seen how the corporation's theory on how to treat us consumers. So even if it's very alluring, some of the games, I don't want to purchase from a Microsoft-owned studio. I already own a lot of it. I'm not going to give up what I already bought necessarily, unless they force me to by making it so I can't play it unless I pay them, in which case I just won't, or I'll find a way to play what I bought already without them. But that's my point. Once you see a corporation bone you, I don't want to buy another Sony camera. I sold one of my Sony cameras recently. Sold it. And a lens. I still got 2 lenses, but they're third-party lenses. But they're Sony mounts. I'll probably sell those too. And if I buy another camera, I'll go with a different manufacturer that cares more about quality than about shareholder value. You know, we've put the stock market ahead of the consumer. The CEO ahead of the worker. And as such, if you want to stick it to them, you got to stop fucking paying them. That's it. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to go out of business. There's still going to be trading amongst the rich. It's the K-shaped economy, and there's a lot of wealthy people that don't care about paying these subscriptions or paying for access to powerful machine or paying $5,000 to $6,000 for a fucking video card so that they can play the best game. 10% better than the half the price down. And maybe 15% better than the last generation, which you can buy for a fraction of that $5,000. $400, $500 for a generation or two ago. And if you go further back, it's cheaper. It's still. See my point? It's a luxury to buy the newest, latest thing. And we need to get rid of that luxury if you're going to stop this train of you will own nothing and you'll be happy as long as you pay us. That's the thing they didn't add at the end of that when they were telling you that in 2016. You will own nothing. You will be happy as long as you fucking pay us. That's where everything's headed. It's why everything's ruined. It's why everyone's miserable. There's no third spaces anymore. Restaurants are fucking shit shows now because you're all buying Cisco shit. All right, let's move on from entertainment. Now, this next thing is something that we think we need. We have to have this. You cannot function in society without this. And that's your fucking car. This one is very personal and dear to me. I feel this one in my ass. I bought a used vehicle. My policy has always been never to buy brand new, because you lose thousands of dollars the minute you drive it off the lot, and you probably got bent over by the insurance and the financing in the process. That has gotten so much worse since my early 20s and 30s. It has become completely shitified at this point. To the point where I paid what should have been new car prices for a 3-year-old van. And I financed it like a dumbass. This trap is the difference between you being able to afford life and not afford life. And if you look at I look at only the curated shit by other YouTubers whose job is entirely just to watch a little thing on the side of the screen with their little TikTok, it looks like kind of like that, and they're like, "See, it's cheap. It should don't." That kind of shit. I watch that not because I think those content creators should be rewarded for their minimal effort, but because they do save me the work of actually curating shit from TikTok when I want to talk about it. And I'm happy to talk about it without showing you all the bullshit out there. But rest assured, if you go and look at the cost of living crisis, affordability crisis, housing crisis, grocery prices, food prices, you look at all of that, you're going to see an endless stream of people sitting in fucking SUVs with moonroofs, which tells me all I need to know there. People with $1,000 a month fucking car payments, or $800 or $700 a month car payments. What they're not telling you is the insurance payment that goes with that. So it ends up being over $1,000 a month before you even put a gallon of gas in the motherfucker. And then they're buying these SUVs and pickup trucks that cost you 400 fucking bucks to fill up under current fuel prices. You see where I'm going with this? When you buy something like that, whatever your corporate job is or your job is, you are now a slave. You cannot just quit and walk away. Or they'll take your thing that you've already dumped thousands of dollars into every month. They'll take it away and they'll still want you to pay the rest. The worst financial decision you can make is to buy a brand new vehicle, especially now, because we're not even through the whole part of them fucking you yet. The worst fucking thing you could do is buy a brand new car. They're going to bend you over on the dealership floor, and they're doing it so fast now. It took them 45 minutes to an hour to bend me over for that van. I've since got the van under my name. It's titled to me now, but the debt is going to be there for a long time. So I'm losing thousands of dollars on this. I've made it so I don't have to slave away 70 hours a week to pay the debt down slowly over time. But I'll probably die before I pay that all off. Let's face it. If I die before it's paid off, I won. That being said, if I die before I've paid more than what the initial asking price of the vehicle is, then I've won. But I also make money with it, so it's profit, which they don't want you to do if you don't own it, if the bank owns it. So the worst decision I made was to buy a 3-year-old vehicle. I cannot imagine somebody who bought a new 2025, 2024, 2026 vehicle. Because now, not only are they making shit, as I mentioned previously, my girlfriend, and you ask what kind, we'll just say Subaru. All right? Her car's falling apart. Everything about it is falling apart. And she just paid it off a year ago. So if you were thinking, this is reliable, I'm going to buy it, and then guess what? No, it's going to break around the time that you're paid it off. And if you paid your payments faithfully, you paid probably about a 30% premium above the asking price, the MSRP of the vehicle, before it's all said and done. That's not counting the amount you've lost to the full coverage insurance you're required to carry. And now the newer vehicles are connected. They can shut you down. Oh, you missed a payment? Stop that vehicle. They know exactly where you are at all times, and will share that information with whoever has the authority to get it or is willing to pay for it. Because they're making money on the back end there. So they're making money out the financing, bending you over in the showroom. They're making money on the back end by collecting your data, showing where every place you go, they could make a full-length documentary of your entire life between the flock cameras and the information that your vehicle is reporting back to their servers. And every car has a SIM chip in it, whether you paid for your SIM subscription or whatever or not, it's still phoning home because it may make a lot of money off of that. And pretty soon, if they haven't already, they'll be communicating your driving habits via camera as well to the insurance companies, and they'll say, I don't like the fact he doesn't look like he's quite awake, so we're going to charge him another $150 a month on his car insurance. We think he's, but yet the other way, if you're doing good, no, you don't get a discount. Fuck you. You got to pay for all the other people who drive horribly. Insurance is a big fucking scam on top of everything else, in my opinion. And when you have a new vehicle, you can't put liability on. So they know they got you. Because if you don't pay your insurance, well, guess what? They'll repo the vehicle because the finance company and bank wants to know that you're not going to go out and wreck their investment in you. So avoid all of that. We live in a glorious time for public transportation. Kinda. You're still going to be bent over a bit there. We all know how bad Uber is about shit, and Lyft. But there's so many other things you can do, depending on where you live. How far you are from your job is the biggest thing. Can you get to and from work? But there's jobs that don't require you to have a vehicle. Truck driving, for example. I never had to have a vehicle. I wanted one. you know. But when it came down to it, when I was an over-the-road truck driver, if I didn't have a vehicle, I'd just Uber home. Or at the time before that, a cab. They're about the same price now. Imagine that. So there was always a way for me to get around. And then while I was in the truck itself, I could go places and do things. Well, find you a job that's either walking distance, bicycling distance, cheap Uber distance, not too far. $10, $15 Uber ride. And just buy a bike, an e-bike. For the price of an e-bike, that covers your first month payment. That's not talking about down payments and all of that horse shit. You do all of these inconvenient, painful solutions, but you still put what you would have paid the car and insurance away. And you save up for as long as you need to get to the tier of used vehicle that you want. And dealerships hate it when you walk in with either a cashier's check or a fistful of cash and be like, I want that one. And then I want that price. They hate you. They don't make money on that. Nobody in that fucking dealership is happy to sell you a car with cash. In fact, they might find a reason not to nowadays. Then you have hopefully you've done your homework too. That's the other thing. Do your homework. Have your mechanic friend with you. Take it to the mechanic if they let you. They probably won't at a dealership. So on and so forth. And find a reliable, easy to find parts for, fixable vehicle. And that's going to be harder and harder as the years go on. Because now they're trying to take your right to repair away. And that is probably going to retroactively apply to anything made after 2020. So they've made these vehicles with however many fucking computers, a SIM card, a LCD display, and all kinds of safety systems, cameras everywhere, outside the vehicle, inside the vehicle, audio monitoring, all of that. And they made it incredibly technical and difficult to repair. My girlfriend, if she has to replace her windshield, because here in Canada they don't work on the roads and rocks get kicked up and crack a windshield, well, she has to pay to have that system recalibrated on top of replacing the windshield. So it may look like you're doing good, but you really got to take this into account if you do this method to avoid this huge financial sinking problem. And mind you, if you take this off your balance sheet, the price of owning a newer vehicle with the financing, you take that off your balance sheet, it will offset your current inflation problems with food, housing, but you will be in a much more advantageous position if you can keep anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 extra a year in your own pocket, or invested would be even better, becoming an owner. If you're driving around in a vehicle that you have a payment that's greater than $600 a month on, and you're also paying $200 to $300 a month on insurance on that vehicle, and you're getting bent over at the pumps right now, it's your own fault. It was my fault for buying that van. I did the dumb thing. Don't do the dumb thing. And you can win for now. They're coming for it. They're going to try and legislate you out of those old vehicles at some point. They've already tried it in California and in some provinces here in Canada. They're going to make it so you can't buy an older vehicle at some point. So now's the time. Time is of the essence here. You need to buy a backup plan for that shiny new fucking vehicle in your driveway that you bought on $1,000 a month payments, because they're coming for that. They know it. Same way PlayStation's trying to get rid of its competition. It's the same playbook, different fucking product, different part of your life, all with the same goal: to monetize you. You, if you're controlled properly, and we know everything about you, and we know where you are, we know where you live, we know where you work, we know what you buy, we know who you talk to, who you associate with, we know all of these things, then we can control you, and we can force you to pay for the privilege of being alive. We'll get to that later too. This is a long video. Sorry. Watch it in small doses. The counter to this, there's so many alternatives nowadays with e-bikes. A regular old bike, get in shape. I'd probably die of a heart attack if I did that now, but we'll see. They got these e-scooters, and some of them got pretty good range now, 20, 30 miles. That should be all you need in a lot of cases. And then you couple that with the fact that you can have just about anything that you would go to a store and buy delivered. I talk a lot of shit about Amazon. I talk a lot of shit about online delivery and these apps and how you do pay more. But it does not offset the cost of owning that vehicle with financing and insurance, full coverage. Which the full coverage often has a $2,000 deductible or a $1,000 deductible. If you really are paying through the ass, you can get it down to $500. But, when you have a claim, they don't even want to pay it. But that being said, you can leverage some of these other technologies that are being shoved upon you by other corporations, because it turns out you can pit these corporations against each other here and there. In particular, you can pit Amazon, Instacart, DoorDash, all of these against the vehicle owner corporations that are really trying to fuck you right now. And you just got to be efficient about it. Order groceries once a month and try and order enough shit that it covers everything. Walmart has its own delivery now as well. You're still going to get raked over the coals with dynamic pricing. But my point is, even with them fucking you with the dynamic pricing, it doesn't hold a candle to the amount of fucking you're getting from your vehicle. So it is entirely possible to survive without a vehicle. I believe Vegetable Police, some of you are familiar with from my channel from the past, that I still watch him every once in a while. I don't think he's owned a vehicle ever since I've watched him. He's always had, right now he's got the battery scooter he zips around his little town in now. Or when he was in Toronto or whatever city he's been in, or even when he was in Thailand, didn't own a vehicle. He's gone pretty much the majority of what seems to be his adult life without owning a vehicle. I think the only time I've ever seen him in vehicles, he rented a moving van to move out to the country. That's my point. And in some of these small towns, you got everything you need. It's a little pricier, but you could just zip over to the store on your little fucking electric scooter, even with the winter. I wouldn't be riding one of those around in the winter, but there's options, is my point. And if you're in a more populated area, then you have rideshare. Maybe you can get into a group with people that are sharing responsibility for a vehicle. Worst case scenario, if you really need something, you want to go on that road trip, but you don't own a vehicle, then you could rent one. So there's that. There's tons of options now that have only improved over time. So you can pit some of these greedy corporations against each other. You don't even need to own an electric scooter in Syracuse. You just go over you could take the bus to the mall for like a few bucks, and then you'll see them laying all over the place. You pick one up, you swipe your handy dandy credit card onto the thing, and guess what? You're off and running, getting charged. I don't know how much they are, but I've seen a lot of people of lower income riding these things, no problem. So it's an option. And they got a little basket on it, so you can probably carry a day or two's worth of groceries in there. And guess what? That's probably all you can afford anyway if you're riding around one of those rental scooters. But my point is, we've never had more options to not own a vehicle than we do now. that could change. That could get worse. You know, as these trends shift around, so do the greedy motherfuckers, and they'll find a way to monetize whatever it is you're doing. So, yeah, you're going to get raked over the coals with delivery, but, you know, it's a question of how bad you want your bent over experience to be. And I'm telling you, if you're buying a brand new vehicle, you're getting bent over at the maximum. So, that's my piece there. These things they're going to take away your right to go to any non-dealership mechanic at some point with the newer vehicles. They make them incredibly difficult for an independent mechanic to even work on because a lot of the systems require specialized hardware, and they know it. And they built it that way on purpose so that you have to go to the dealer. And my 3-year-old vehicle, I drive a 2021 Toyota Sienna hybrid. Not only are they more expensive to work on just by being a hybrid, so that's, you know, you may save a few miles per gallon on gas, but they'll get it back for you in repairs at some point. I've already had an issue where I had to go to the dealer to get it fixed, and it was within, 3 or 4 months of buying it. And they wanted to charge me through the ass on it. I was like, look, I just bought this fucking thing. And maybe, just maybe, you take one for the team here. And they did knock off a significant amount of the labor. I still had to pay, though. I pay for parts. Which, glad they did that. Doesn't make me ever want to fucking go back. Because that shit should have been fixed, under lemon laws, in my opinion. And it was just a tail light that didn't work. And I tried taking it to an independent place. They couldn't do it. They're like, I'm sorry, but nothing we can do. It's an LED. It shouldn't be bad. Which means it's a wiring problem. And it was a wiring problem. They had to individually repair a wiring harness. And probably something I could have only had done at the dealer. That's gotten worse. The service is insane. Mechanic shortage, whatnot, because nobody wants to be a mechanic in this environment. And prices through the roof for repairs nowadays. That's if you can get an appointment. And dealerships, they don't care. They're paid the lowest possible wage. The lowest possible corporate wage to repair your vehicle. And they have to do it in a specifically quick period of time to reduce their cut of the billable hours. The guy writing down the paper for me getting in gets paid more than the fucking mechanic that's doing the work. Just saying. So, corporate greed at its finest if you go to the dealer to get repairs, and they want to force that on you. Ford is leading the way. And Trump was like, hey, that sounds like a good idea. That might be dangerous for people to fix their own shit. I think you're on to something. I'm telling you, it's coming. Now's the time to get out if you can, because you won't have this opportunity in the future, I don't think. Housing. There's not an easy solution here, aside from being homeless. But even that comes with its problems now. See, I used to be all about live in a vehicle, do this kind of stuff, but since Trump's been in power, he has helped make it more illegal to park places. People have ruined a lot of parking places by being dicks. So now a lot of the public land that you used to be able to go and vehicle camp on, they don't like you there. They don't want you there. They'll chase you off. They might even give you a ticket. They might fine you. They could even possibly arrest you and seize your vehicle, depending on what state. Different states have different levels of law here. So they've made it harder for you to not pay rent. I wonder why that is. Could it have anything to do with the owners, the corporations, and the hedge funds buying up tons of real estate so that it drives the price up? Number go up on price of homes, so you can't buy one, but they got it, so you have to rent it from them. And you would think maybe they'd pass some savings on to you, but no, you're paying more than they would pay for a mortgage in a lot of cases. So that's a tough one. roommates, jobs that provide places to live. Those exist still. They're not the most glamorous. They don't pay a lot either. Truck driver, that immediately comes to mind because that's what I did for a bunch of years. I lived in a truck. Had a storage unit or had the room at my mother's house. Those are the two things that got me through all these years. I have not paid rent in a very long time. I think it's been greater than 10 years now. And I can't tell you, at $1,000 plus a month for like a studio apartment nowadays, it's probably more in some cities, depends on where you live. That has saved me a ton of having to work. You think I'd be able to do this semi-retirement shit? If you don't know what I'm talking about, look at my other videos. If I had a massive rent or mortgage payment right now, and then if you have a mortgage payment, you guess what? You have mortgage insurance, and you have property tax, and you have maintenance and repair. That starts to pile up, doesn't it? Forcing you to have to what? Work harder. Work more. Bust your ass. Get in the truck. So everybody keeps telling me, get back in the truck. You're just going to be poor. I'm not going to be poor if I don't have all those bills. Am I? I think we have to define poor. Is it convenient? No. I've given up a few comforts, like privacy. Don't have a lot of that. Don't have a lot of place to put things, so I don't buy a lot of things. I buy some nice things. I have some nice things, but 9 times out of 10, I'm living out of about 5 to 6 backpacks that I carry around with me, whether I stay here at my girlfriend's or I go to the little room at the house. Right now I'm doing the back and forth thing. I do have some things that stay places, like a TV, I've got a synth that parks somewhere. But for the most part, I do have an old desktop too with Linux on it because I, had to convert to Linux because it wouldn't support Windows anymore. But for the most part, like even that PS4 Pro that I just bought for $120 with all the games on it, that was the greatest. That I've transferred to the hard drive that I paid too much for. But that hard drive was insane. But I needed a 5 terabyte drive so I could keep a lot of games. Once I download them, after I put the disc in, I want to have them on the hard drive so that if I disconnect, I don't need to be connected to Sony to play the games I buy. And I will periodically test and figure out where I went wrong and where I can actually play the games that I purchase physical copies of. So there's that. But that being said, I don't have a lot of places to put things. I sleep on a mattress on the floor when I'm in the United States. I don't have a bed, traditional bed. Those same mattresses I will then take to the van when I go car camping, which I have done. And it's not as comfortable, but it's definitely doable. I still have all of the shit from when I had the Prius and the truck. So everything necessary to live in a vehicle I have still, and I keep those things because you never know when you have to live in a vehicle. And now that I own the van, the note to the van anyway, I have that backup plan. If I need to hop in the van to avoid paying rent, I have that. That doesn't mean I'm not eventually, the thing's going to fucking break. The batteries in it, after 250,000 miles, probably need to be replaced. That's in current dollars, it's probably $5,000. In future dollars, it's probably $25,000 and not even worth it. So, yeah, I've given up a lot to not pay rent. And I'll continue to do whatever it takes to not pay rent. Because that means I don't have to get in a truck. Which is ironic, because if I get in the truck, I'm never going to be at the home that I'm going to pay to rent for. Kind of counterintuitive there. You work really hard, you pay that rent or the mortgage, and you're never there. And then if you come off the road and quit your job, then you can't afford to keep all of that, and it goes away. See what I'm saying? But if you weren't paying rent to begin with, because you've structured your life in a way, not convenient way, mind you, not even the most fun way, and sometimes, but you've structured your life in a way to where you're not paying rent then it doesn't really matter if you lost your job. You're still in the same situation, aren't you? Then you just got to come up with other incomes, other ways of making money, which I do, and I pay my bills, but I don't have a lot of bills. I don't have a lot of the crippling bills that people have at this point. Even the car note I've refinanced. Yeah, in the long run, it's going to cost me a lot more in interest. But in the short term, I'm not under an incredible amount of pressure to work full time. So there's that. And it gives me the time necessary to come up with more ways to make money on my own, to be an owner, to have time. But that's a whole other video. Housing, not the greatest way to stick it to them right now because it's an essential part of your life. But through roommates, all of these other things I've described, jobs that provide housing, that kind of thing, there's volunteer jobs where they give you the house. They give you a place to live. As long as you do this, whatever the hell it is they need done. Some of it's just sitting at a front desk, like working in a hotel. These jobs are out there. They're not glamorous, they're not convenient, and you own nothing. But you also don't have to pay. So there's that. The military, believe it or not. My first experience was being in the military. Housing provided, paid for if you even moved out of the base housing. I'm sure they still got shit like that if you're a youngin'. You can cover the last one, which is another pain in the ass. I have two more categories here to worry about, sticking it to the corpos. But you can get your medical coverage covered. You can get housing while you're in. And you can get, if you want to go to that lovely institution of college, which is, I still think, a bad move. But you can get a lot of it paid for simply by joining the military. It's going to suck. Trump's going to be your boss. And right now he's probably going to send you over to Iran to do some, hopefully, stuff that you live through. And don't get injured and permanently crippled the rest of your life and have to rely on the VA forever. But if you're willing to risk all of that, what you do get out of the deal is if you make under $50,000 a year, you get free health care for the rest of your life. It counts under the Obamacare Act. Remember that? That's great. So I have health care covered because I did 10 years in the Air Force. While I was in the Air Force, housing was free, paid for by the government, by the taxpayer. And sometimes it was really nice. Sometimes it was like the classic American dream house. Just saying. Or the luxury apartment in Denver. I remember that. That was great. But my point is I don't have to worry about one of the categories here, and that's medical. We'll get to that in a minute. But housing, from a housing standpoint, there are solutions. They're not convenient. They're not fun. And they require realigning your entire life. And is it worth it to do so? I'd say yeah. I'd say I've lived pretty well, a lot better than some of the people that I've seen over the years who enslaved themselves to work and they still didn't get to keep everything they were paying for. Or they died. So I think I'm ahead of the game there. I've retained a lot of my time, which is more valuable than the inflated away dollars. So, yeah, that's housing. Food. Food's another tough one. Guess what? You need to eat to live. However, what you eat, where you get it, those things can seriously affect how much it costs you over the long term. So I know that you can eat cheap. You can go and get ramen noodles and macaroni and cheese and ultra-processed food that has no nutritional value whatsoever, but has enough calories to keep you from starving to death while destroying your health. So then, if you eat that way, you eat on the cheap, you go to McDonald's and get the value slop burger or whatever at the bottom of the fucking barrel, loaded with sugar, loaded with carbs, loaded with crap, then around the time in your late 50s, sometimes early as 40s, I've seen, all the way up till you die, you're going to hit a health wall. And then your medical costs, the corporations who want you to pay to live, they start coming around in your 50s and saying, hey, we need to look in your asshole to make sure you're all right. I'm like, no, my asshole's all right. Thank you. I don't want to send you a bag of shit. I'm good. And even though it's the VA and it doesn't cost me anything out of pocket to do, they're even sending me the bag. They've even given me like blood pressure things and all kinds of shit because they want to reel me in because they get paid from someone else. I don't pay them, but they don't get paid for me if I don't go in. They don't get paid for me if I don't get the medication that Big Pharma wants them to prescribe to me. Now, I'm not here to tell you how to live your post-medical life. I'm not an expert. I'm not here to give that advice. And no one should approach this the way I do. We're all different. We all have different problems or whatever. But I personally, for me, this is not a recommendation for anyone else. I do not want to spend 1 second of my elder years in medical system. Any way I can avoid it, I will. Does it mean there's a certain amount of luck involved there, whether or not I end up with cancer or any of these other fucking things? And my health hadn't been the greatest before I got back on the horse with my current diet my current diet routine and fasting. However, if you don't do these things and you try and cheap out on your food, or you're eating the standard American diet every day and drinking shit and smoking and doing all the dumb shit, you're going to be forced into that healthcare system. And if you were nice enough to pay off your house, they'll love you when you do that, because they'll force you to sell that so they can put you in the end of care facility where they can have you play bingo with all the other people and be miserable and stare at the wall, maybe watch TV, corporate cable TV, where they sell you prescriptions all day on there. I wonder why that is. And then, they take all of your assets to pay for it. Some places have even had elder abuse going on. And that's how they want you to live out your final days of your life. They've set it up with the food, and they're going to knock it out of the park with the medical care. So you have to approach food from two angles here. At any point, you should try and eat the healthiest you are able to, based on the food available to you. I'm of the opinion that that's keto and fasting. I believe keto has done wonders, as has fasting. When I felt, not even 3 or 4 months ago, like I was dying, I felt chronic fatigue, constant body pain, low energy, didn't want to do shit. That's all gone. I fixed it and I didn't set foot into a doctor's office. That doesn't mean it works for you. I'm not recommended that. I'm not a fucking medical guy. I'm not an expert. You do you. Do your homework. Talk to somebody who knows their shit, that's qualified. That's not me. Truck driver, YouTuber. That's all I am. And I'm just sharing my philosophy on it. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make me an expert. Just putting that out there. Nothing in this is health advice. But I'm of the opinion that that's the for-profit model. You get sick with the food, and they take anything that you got left over from your life and your hard work and the years you spent slaving away for the corporate system, and they take whatever you got left. And that's if you don't die before that. And then they just take whatever you had and give it to whoever in probate or whatever if you didn't have a will. Might want to have one of those if you don't. Or if you got a ton of debt, then you won. You don't have to pay all that back. But that's good. They'll just liquidate all your assets and pay off all your debts, and any heirs might get some sentimental shit that the bank can't sell. And that's it. So yeah, the two aspects are, where do you get your food that affect the price? How healthy it is tends to be more expensive, but that expense is offset. Since I've been keto and fasting, and some of you are pulling up your chair now. Oh yeah, keto, fasting. I'm down 14 pounds since I started. And I didn't start that long ago. It's been, what, a month now? I don't know. You can check the dates on the videos. But I'm down 14 pounds. I've not done nonstop alternate day fasting. I find when I feel like my metabolism slows down, I stop the fasting part to a degree. I still do OMAD for the most part, or 16 and 8. But that's OMAD is 1 meal a day. 16 and 8 is you only eat within an 8-hour window every day. But I eat keto during that time. It's very filling, and I don't regain any of the weight I lost from the fast. But slowly I regain the metabolism, is my point. Because if you fast too much, your metabolism will drop, contrary to what everyone says. I've proven it over and over again. I've done it in the past, and I'm doing it now. And when I start to see my metabolism drop, and my latest metabolism drop after a week of ADF, I was on a fasting day, and I was doing yard work for my girlfriend. I mowed the lawn, did all of that, very physical, and I was fasted the whole time. And then after that, I felt a huge crash in energy, and I was just like, okay, I've felt this before. If I don't do something about it, then my metabolism may drop, which will result in a complete stall of weight loss and so on and so forth. So I'm at 215, 16, somewhere in there, bouncing around pounds right now. And I started at 231. Scales have varied, though. The scale I have at home is a few pounds lower than the scale here at my girlfriend's. So I'm guesstimating, but it doesn't matter. There's a 4-pound variance in there anyway. My point is I don't have to eat as often now since I started doing this. Therefore, while some of the foods are more expensive, and we'll get into that in the members only video where I talk about the keto store and some of the things we've been purchasing there. That's coming up. But so feel free to become a channel member if you want more details there. That being said, some of the food prices are insane. Like if you need some dopamine or a dessert, you'll find that the keto version often is way more expensive than the shitty processed, ultra processed, sugary food version. But there's a trade-off. If you're eating the keto version, it's not going to destroy your health the same as the ultra-processed sugar food version will. And you will pay less in future healthcare costs as a result. That and the keto option, almost 99% of the time, is so filling that you can't overdo it. Whereas you could probably eat 3 or 4 of the ultra-processed cupcakes, that $6 keto cupcake, you're full after you eat it and satisfied. And you don't gain a lot of weight. Has more calories, a lot more protein too, than the ultra-processed crap version. Ultra-processed crap version scratches all of your dopamine itches a lot better than the keto one. The keto gives you enough to quiet your dopamine system down for a period of time. Whereas the other one's like, oh yeah, we're enough. It's like, it's like you're on Breaking Bad or something with the other stuff. So my point is while it is more pricey to be healthy, if you do it right, your appetite will lower. You will not consume as many calories. Therefore, you will not be buying as many calories. Meat, on the other hand, has been an issue. Ground beef is the staple, whereas ribeyes or steaks are a luxury at this point. But my girlfriend's particularly savvy in Canada, where grocery prices are wildly overpriced in a lot of places. But she's able to find these sales and find things, to where meat's about to expire, like it's a few days off and it's sitting in the store because nobody wanted to pay $25 a pound for it. So it gets marked down to $11 a pound or $10 a pound, or so on and so forth. And my girlfriend has this big freezer, and she'll just buy, we went in and ground beef was on sale for $5 a pound. It's about what it worked out for. And she just loaded up on like 12 pounds of ground beef, and then went home, packaged it, labeled when it was packaged and the expiration or whatever, and put it in the freezer. Now, if we want ground beef, just grab a thing out of the freezer. You can either let it thaw or you can thaw it as you go. And you got a keto meal. You mix some pasta sauce in there if you want. There's a little bit of carbs in that. Any other keto-friendly ingredients, and you have a very filling meal. You can buy keto wraps. They're still reasonably priced. They scratch your bread itch for the most part. I carry keto wraps when I'm out and about in case I need buy a burger with no bun or something, and so on and so forth. The other issue has been chicken wings. Chicken wings have been pricey. But my point is, you'll find sales on the meat. When you do, a freezer will pay for itself. Okay? And then if food prices continue to skyrocket and you just bought the next 6 months worth of beef already, you're covered for a while. You're not going to pay the extra that it would have if you just bought 1 pound at a time or 2 pounds a week or whatever. So find the meat sales. If you got access to a farm or a butcher or both, try and develop a relationship there to get how much you pay per pound down. Aldi's is $14 a pound for steaks, and I forget what ground beef, full fat ground beef, 80%. Those things, I went over it in more detail in another video, but for the most part, you got to look for the values. Look at the unit prices of food, not the shelf price, because shrinkflation is a thing. Try and avoid stores with dynamic pricing. It's going to get harder because I feel like since Walmart's doing it, guess what? Everyone's going to do it. And I'm seeing them pop up in these smaller metro stores here in Canada, which I thought would never get them. But lo and behold, I was surprised when I went to buy a hard drive for my PlayStation 4 in Best Buy the other day, and I saw, oh, fuck, the dynamic prices are here. And if the dynamic prices are in the store, I'm not going in your store if I can avoid it. However, with food, they know they got you, so they're going to probably put dynamic prices in every grocery store and have the mass surveillance to back it up to essentially jack up the prices on the things you normally buy and make more profit. That's coming to a grocery store near you. I'm seeing it spread like cancer already throughout brick and mortar retail. If you're going to do dynamic prices, probably cheaper to do it at home, where you can sit there and be like, I ain't paying that. I ain't paying that either. And then it'll hear you say that, and then maybe next time it'll show you a better price. And then you get it right away, instead of you picking it up at the thing and you forgot what the price said and you get up front and it jacked it up another $1 on you. These are all shady things that have been caught. Go out and search, do your homework on that. Dynamic pricing is already here. If you have a Walmart or a grocery store with these price tags, they're watching you. They know who you are. They know what you bought before, especially if you got their membership or whatever, or you have a membership to their subscription app. Oh, fuck, I fucking hate all of that. I fucking hate all of that. That being said, avoid where they can fuck you as much as you can. And farmers markets have caught on, and greed has infiltrated those, I'm hearing. I haven't personally been to a farmer's market in a while, so I couldn't tell you if it's spread everywhere, but I'm seeing a lot of complaints online of price gouging in farmers markets, sometimes ridiculously so. So it's a thing. Everyone's trying to scramble to make that money because the cost of everything is going up. And it's going to continue. These are things you can do to soften the blow. Will they always work? I don't know. Depends on when you're watching this video. But as of right now, you can save money these ways. So I've touched on food. I've touched on healthcare. Be healthy is the number one thing you can do for healthcare. as I've said for the young folks, it can apply to any employer who would provide you with free health care. But the military is really the only way you're going to get free health insurance, and you're only going to have it as long as your income is lower. Over 50 grand, the VA does require you to maintain some kind of health insurance. So there's that. And there is still co-pays even if you don't, but they're very cheap. The only other option, and this is not health advice, is not advice of any kind, is to not have health insurance and pay out of pocket. And doing so, depending on how fucked you are, might still be cheaper than maintaining health insurance, especially since a lot of health insurance doesn't cover a lot of things. But a lot of people with health insurance are finding that they are getting fucked. They're not getting the proper care that they're supposed to get. You know, this is well known. You can research this on the internet. And I've seen it in real life and multiple times in my life, to where the insurance company won't pay for certain things. And the doctors know what they don't pay for, so they don't offer them things to you. And then when they do offer you something, there's a chance the insurance company will be like, no, we don't think that's good, so we're not paying for it. And you get billed anyway. And you get billed at a higher price than if you just went into the doctor and say, look, doc, I don't have insurance. How much? Turns out they charge you less in that scenario than they would charge. That's not corrupt at all. You get a better price than the insurance company. And then we wonder why the insurance company doesn't want to pay for everything. You know, because the doctors are fucking the insurance company. And then the insurance company's fucking the doctors. And then and everybody is fucking each other there. And then they fuck you afterwards. That's American healthcare in a nutshell. No one cares if they cure you or get you better. No. It's all a big, way to make maximum profit. You know, people aren't becoming doctors nowadays because they want to heal people and be everything is. We got to take care of humanity, and I want to be a doctor so I can have the big house with the big boat and the big RV and the big vacations. And I'm seeing doctors that take fucking 10 vacations a year. Lawyers too. Fuck them. I hate them too. So yeah, there's a whole lot of greed in what is essentially a requirement for long-term survival, and that's the healthcare system. And I don't know a whole lot of ways around that other than any way you can get free healthcare. I don't care if you got to go on food stamps. If you're not healthy, then it pays it better to be broke and poor. Welcome to the welfare state. Than if you are of modest middle class or higher income, they're going to take that. They're going to take that from you. If you're poor, then you ain't got nothing to take. And then they only get paid what the taxpayer is willing to pay for. And that's the state of our healthcare. It doesn't mean they're not motivated to take you in when you're not paying for your healthcare. I know somebody who's on public healthcare, health insurance, and they get called in for MRIs all the time and all these expensive ass fucking things to say, oh, well, we'll check back in a month. But if you don't show up, they'll call you and be like, hey, you haven't shit in a bag in a while. Here you go. AKA what's happening with me in the VA. You do you. I personally am choosing to not partake, and I might die because of it. I might die earlier. I might have a heart attack. I might get hit by a bus and not have a choice and get stuck in there without insurance in a non-VA hospital. Then I'll get sent a huge medical debt and I'll file medical bankruptcy because I don't have a huge income. But in that process, they'll take whatever assets they can take, and that'll be that. That's the risk I'm taking. But as such, I have not had health insurance since I left the military, other than the VA. And there's no guarantee that if you're unconscious, they're going to take you to the fucking VA. Not to mention the $4,000 fucking ambulance ride. Put my ass in an Uber, all right? Just let me put that out there. I'll be one of the dudes, and I was an Uber driver for a while. I actually picked some people up and dropped them off at the fucking ER. And, yeah, because they didn't want to pay for the ambulance ride. Yep, all that shit costs money. So, medical, it's one of those gray areas. It's really dependent on your health. And you can save yourself hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's insane how expensive. There's people with millions of dollars because of cancer and whatnot of costs. And it's coming out of the insurance. And guess what? You're paying for that. When they take 3/4 of your check for your fucking healthcare plan, that's where it's going. Part of it is luck. Part of it is trying to take good care of yourself. And I haven't been the best at that over the course of my life. I've done a lot of dumb shit in terms of my health. And now that I'm over 50, it's really at the forefront of my mind. It's like, how long do I got before I hit this health wall? The health wall is bearing down on me. That's why I'm doing this push with keto and fasting right now, to try and buy myself another few years to where I don't have to be in the healthcare system. And if it comes for me between choosing death or being in the healthcare system, I think you can guess which one I'm choosing at that point. But I'm not there yet. I'm doing everything I can to not get there. And from what I can tell in my symptoms so far, it's making a difference. It's definitely buying me more time before I hit that health wall. I'm not sore. When I did all that yard work, other than I broke my fast because I wanted to not tank my metabolism, I had modest amount of energy the next day and I was not sore at all. The old me, the fat me on the fucking standard American diet, cheap food I could find shit, I'd still not have recovered to this day from that. So to me, that's how I measure whether or not it's working. Now, there could be a variety of cancer or whatever, or heart attack or stroke or whatever the fuck waiting for me in the future, dormant in my body right now as we speak. That's the luck part. And I hope I don't lose that. But at this stage of life, I really don't want a medical bankruptcy in my future. They take the van that I just got, that I think I own now, right? Yeah, you own nothing. They'll come for it. You get fucked up, you end up in the hospital. Then you end up, because you had shitty insurance or you didn't have insurance, with a $200,000 medical bill. Then they'll try and collect on. And it goes into the courtroom. You know what they can do in that courtroom? They can do a lot to you. They can take any assets you have to pay that medical debt. Even if you file bankruptcy, they will look at what you own and what assets you have, and they may force you to liquidate those assets to pay that medical bill. You own nothing in the most literal sense. Yeah, I don't know how there are other ways to paint it. I'm trying to give you some tips to dodge and maybe piss off the corporations and maybe get some value from them instead of the other way around. But that is a Band-Aid on a large wound in our society. And I don't think we'll ever close that wound at this point. We are far past the point of no return here. And the young folks today, they aren't even aware of what they're walking into here. They're not. They're on Fortnite right now on their tablets as kids. They're not learning anything like that would help them along in life. And a lot of the fucking parents don't teach them shit. And the schools, they're teaching them other things. You know, schools used to teach you to be an obedient worker. I don't know what the fuck they're doing now. I don't know if you've walked into Starbucks and tried to get a coffee at $8 lately. But Your experience of customer service has evolved since I was in my younger days into a into a new experience brought to you by the young folks of the tablet generation, of the Fortnite slash Roblox generation. That's where all the kids are now, right now. By the way, they're not playing on Steam. They're not playing on PlayStation. They're in Roblox, enjoying the free clones of all the good, successful games that are on those other platforms. That's where the kids are now. They're spending their mommy and daddy's credit card on Robux so that they can buy the latest skin for the latest fucking throwaway content game that's going to disappear in another few months, and so that they can glom onto the next clone or bullshit that comes out. The biggest theft of intellectual property that you can think of is going on in Roblox right now. I'm just putting it that way. Not to mention it's become predatory without triggering any algorithms here. It's become a bad place for your kids to be, yet they're all there. Okay. That's it for this fucking joyful video. I hope at least one of the things that I discussed in here, some of which I've tried myself, some of which are lessons I should have learned long ago, or I thought I learned and then I forgot and did it anyway. The van being that one there, because I was ahead of the curve when I was in the Prius and I owned everything and I didn't have a fucking car payment and I paid liability insurance. Yeah, those were the days. And I had a vehicle that I could actually get fixed at any mechanic instead of having to go in the dealer for it. A lot of it is part wisdom from failure, part if I had it to do over again, part I'm doing this way now so that I can secure some kind of future that doesn't require a subscription from me, to where I don't have to pay for the very privilege of being alive. That's my goal, and these are some of the things I can think of to try. If you have some ideas to try, and I've also in the previous video talking about making your own shit, making your own products, that kind of stuff, that goes along with the food. Watch that video. That has some helpful tips. There are a lot of things that we pay way more than they're worth for that you can make yourself. That'll be a topic we do explore in the future. I have a friend who's been itching to show me how he makes his own lumber and how he makes his own woodworking products and carpentry and that kind of stuff. And I'm interested in that. I just don't know how to do any of it. But in high school, I was pretty good at it. So, he's wanting to get together so I could film some of the things he does to save money on that. You got to buy furniture if you can make it. Just saying. Or things. You like things. You don't have to buy the 3D printed plastic at your latest fucking rip-off boutique shop. You can make all of these things yourself. I know somebody who's in that business too, the 3D printing business. So yeah, there's that. So there's lots of ways to disconnect from this corporate system. And I've only scratched the surface. There's a lot of these things you can find in detail. You can find how to get rid of Microsoft and upgrade to Linux if you're a computer tech guy. If you're a gamer, you can find how to jailbreak the earlier PlayStation models, and even the PlayStation 5 has some jailbreaks going on there that allow you to use the full power and put whatever things you own on them versus paying for the privilege of being Sony's lapdog for the rest of your life. And Microsoft, I have not missed at all. 99% of the things I was doing when I had Windows, I still am able to do. I used 2 different systems to do it. I've got Apple, which is probably the next and shitified corporation, but for now they have treaded the line. They gouge you on the hardware. But as all the hardware people are gouging now, probably in some cases more than Apple, because Apple can make some of their own hardware silicon-wise, they'll probably go for the discount market that's being neglected by the others right now. But that being said, a lot of the software that I could no longer utilize on Linux, I was able to easily do on Mac. So between Mac and Linux, Mac focusing on my creative shit, Linux focusing on gaming, and also found development works fairly well as far as making your own games and some 3D art and that kind of stuff. Still doable on Linux. You can also do those things on Mac as well. But divorcing from Microsoft has been one of the best financial things I've done. I think the only thing I have left are some games that Microsoft bought all these studios and now they're destroying them and laying them off and gutting them. And not producing any original good titles from these studios that used to do all of that. Yeah. So I have some of those games. You know, I have some old Blizzard titles that I still have to log into Battle.net if I want to play them. Unless I get the old versions or the game, the GOG versions. But I also took a loss by anything I purchased on the Xbox Digital Store because even though I still could access those things via certain apps on Apple, ironically enough, it's harder to do on Linux to get to your Xbox library. Might involve some cozying up between Steam and your library there. But a lot of those titles are also on Steam anyway, so there's that. I did buy the Expedition 33 before I had gotten rid of my Xbox, so I paid for that and I played it for 10 minutes. I need to find a cheap copy of that on another platform to rebuy it. So waiting for the Steam sale on that one someday. That's the other thing. Save money by waiting. So that's it for this video. Remember, I am not an expert. Nothing in this is financial or health advice. I'm just saying things that these are ideas I'm snowballing or spitballing or both to try and figure out how to stick it back to the corporations while increasing my ownership, you know. And at the end of the day, the other side of the spectrum is if you can't beat them, buy them. If you can become an owner, you know, knowing that they want number to go up desperately, they're probably going to fuck up along the way and make their number go down. And at that point, you can, if you've saved and done some of these other tips to accumulate some money, if you take that money and invest it, and you purchase these things that go up, that number go up on, when the number's down, you know, not financial advice, but I think that'd be a great way to divert this money that's just going into a vacuum if you pay the subscription to life that they want you to. And if you do that long enough, then you're an elite and you don't care if you're paying $30 a month or whatever. And then you become one of the ones that are carrying that economy. And they've left all the rest of us behind that don't want to participate in that. And they don't care. They don't. Sony doesn't care right now. They're getting unbelievable amounts of backlash. Microsoft had an entire country, by the way, uninstall Windows for Linux. France. All of the government computers, I believe, in a sector of France, I saw this on YouTube somewhere, because of the security issues, they went to Linux and got rid of, it's a huge amount of money that Microsoft no longer has. It's a whole country. They still haven't stopped. They still haven't changed their theory. They still think that they got us over the rail. They're bending us over, and then we're just going to sit there and be like, thanks, Microsoft. I appreciate it. Yes, I love the new Windows. Copilot. Copilot's great. Can you just more Copilot? That's, you know, I'm tired. I'm tired of the shit. They've ruined everything. Everything fucking sucks because of them. We got to try and hold on to what we can. The ship's going down, people. The ship's going down. They want to take all of that from you. And if you don't stop them now, you will not in the future have the opportunity to. And you can hold me to that in 10 years after I probably die or something. You know, you'd be like, that fucking bearded guy, he didn't know shit. Please like and subscribe for more shit. And I'll make more shit. Please consider becoming a channel member because YouTube doesn't like paying me to talk shit about corporations. So I don't make a lot of money making these videos, but I do put a lot of effort and time in. This is a long video. It took me a while to edit and post and do all of this shit. And I am very thankful for the channel members who don't even seem to be demanding that I pump out member-only videos. I still give them an extra video every now and then, but keep in mind, these videos that I post here are partially paid for by them. The other part is paid for by the very corporations that I fucking hate and I'm tired of. And I'm sure you've probably watched 10 ads during this fucking video if you didn't have some kind of, other means of watching it. But that being said, I'm aware of what is allowing me, and I'd much prefer that the audience supported the video as opposed to the advertisers. But, it's YouTube. What can I do? Ad revenue's a thing. All right. Have a nice motherfucking day and shit. And I think I said it all in this video. I don't know that there's anything I could add at this point. I think I got it.